MultimediaJay radio style.
What is up, everybody? I hope your weekend's going better than mine, because somewhere along the line I caught someone's cold, so I'm feeling a little under the weather here. Sick or not, though, this weekend has had plenty of tech surprises for me. First things first, if you want a career that's really good at making you feel old, tech is the way to go. For example, consider Weird Al Yankovic's song All About the Pentiums from his 1999 album Running with Scissors. Some of the stuff he was bragging about in that video, which at the time was off-the-charts hyperbole, is either available today or will probably be within reach of most consumers within the next couple of years, tops. For example, I got me 100 gigabytes of RAM. Well, the main system I have right now, Tuxedo, running Windows 7 Professional, has 8 gigs of RAM. And 64-bit Windows operating systems, beginning with Windows XP 64-bit edition, could theoretically support a computer with 100 gigs of RAM if there were ever a motherboard that took that amount. Maybe there is, I don't know, but the 100 gig of RAM computer that Weird Al raps about in that video is possible. The question is, when is it going to show up on the market? Or what about that flat screen monitor 40 inches wide? I'm sure in our day and age, we'd probably assume it was an LCD because everything's flat panel now. But, he could have been rapping about a CRT monitor that's 40 inches wide. But regardless of the type of monitor and whatnot, you can have a monitor that's 40 inches wide and flat screen nowadays. They're called HD TVs. If you don't want to actually find a monitor that's that big, most HD TVs have at least a D-sub jack in the back. Not to mention, besides the D-sub jacks on televisions, video cards on computers, and even integrated video controllers on computers have HDMI ports nowadays. So the march of technology at a faster and faster pace in this case has made it so that it's real easy these days, if you went to all the trouble, to have a flat screen monitor 40 inches wide. It would probably be an HD TV, but HD TVs do up to 1080p just like the monitors do. So in 1999, this was off the charts hyperbole in order for the song to be funny, but it's doable nowadays. Installed a T1 line at my house. Now, this is definitely a dated reference. Back around the time that song was written, T1s were the creme de la creme of broadband, as far as I knew. I used to check my broadband speed in college on something that CNET was running at the time. Can't remember what it was called, but it let you test your internet speed, and it would show you all the different connections available at the time. And you'd have dial-up at 28.8 and 56K. Then it would transition to ISDN internet at 64K to 128K, DSL and cable started at 384K, and then all the way up at the top were T1 lines, 1.5 megabits per second. My college's network ran off of 2 T1s, I think, when I first started going there. I was talking with one of my IT friends, like, yeah, we leased 2 T1 lines to run our college network and stuff like that. So, and he told me how much it costs, and I was like, yeah, that's definitely something that only the rich could afford if individuals wanted this kind of service. But even with America having fallen behind the curve in broadband development compared to other parts of the world over the last decade, 1.5 megabits per second is a joke of a broadband connection these days. Granted, DSL cable is probably asynchronous. It's probably a download speed and not your upload speed, but 1.5 megabits per second is low-end broadband. I mean, that's cheap DSL for crying out loud. And cable, when there isn't a lot of traffic on the networks, could easily blow that out of the water. And of course, who could forget now the new king of broadband connections, fiber, which blows every existing technology we have out of the water. So again, installed a T1 line at my house. What it meant back around the time this song came out would be laughable today. You can get cheap DSL that at least downloads at 1.5 megabits a second. Granted, here in America, I wouldn't call broadband or DSL cheap. Actually, with what I've learned about broadband development in other parts of the world, I think our broadband systems here in this country are a complete joke. But that's another discussion for another day. Two more laughably dated references in that song. In a 32-bit world, it's 64-bit now, especially with all the increased memory capabilities of 64-bit operating systems. And saying Hewlett-Packard instead of just HP. I actually made a joke about that with some IT folks at where I work because we were looking at some things in a server room, and I said, this cabinet, you can tell how old it is because Hewlett-Packard is still spelled out on the thing instead of it being just HP. So, yeah, I mean, it looks like even Weird Al Yankovic's computer songs haven't been immune to just how fast technology can advance in even as little as a decade. Regardless, for guys like me, once again, tech proves to be the very kind of thing we can be into that's very good at making us feel old. Now, besides making me feel old, sometimes tech can really make me feel like an ass. Like this TV on Newegg, for example. Now, I made the transition a couple of years ago to using a TV as a computer monitor, and I got rid of my TV because it was an old tube TV and it sucked a lot of power and stuff, and I figured, you know what, I want to integrate console gaming and PC gaming more closely together, so I figured the way to do that was to just grab a 1080p TV and make that my new computer monitor. Now, the Samsung unit that I have that generates these comments on these videos like, dude, that's a big-ass monitor, that would be because it's a TV. I picked this unit up at the end of 2008 during a recession holiday sale. Basically, what was going on at the time was the big box retailers and e-tailers were slashing prices like crazy to try and have a holiday shopping season with the economy being so terrible at the time. So, basically, even though this TV was supposed to be around $1,200 at the time, which is way out of my price range. Newegg had it for like $700-ish, $800, etc. And so what I did was I figured this price would only be around for the holidays. So I figured what I'd do is get the TV now, of course, back then, of course, get the TV, and then when tax time came around, just bank the refund, whatever it was, because, you know, the way tax refunds work in this country, of course, is that it's real easy to get a pretty sizable chunk of change, especially if you are paranoid about taxes and have too much withheld. So I pretty much took out a short-term loan for myself and got the TV around the holidays and then made up for it when tax time rolled around. But look at this thing's price. $584 for 1080p on Newegg, 37-inch. If I was in the market for a TV now, I wouldn't have to make some buy it now and bank the tax refund later plans. This is on par with a moderately bad car repair as far as cost goes. It's crazy, you know. A couple of years ago, it didn't look like 1080p would ever drop below $1,000. But then, of course, the 120 hertz TVs came out, the 3D TVs came out, so now people that want all this 3D stuff and other assorted eye candy can spend the big bucks, and then regular old TVs at 60 hertz that do rather well depending on the brand, if they double as if you use them as a monitor, have just been dropping and dropping and dropping. Speaking of dropping, check out the fact that this thing's Energy Star certified. That was an even bigger surprise. I mean, my last CRT TV sucked 240 watts when it was operating. The LCD that I have now was a step down from that because it was 190 watts max. And I don't think it's doing 190 watts because I got the backlight turned all the way down and some other energy saver features turned on. But I went digging around for the operating wattage of this TV, and it took me a while to find it, but I finally found it on this top 10 list, talking about how it's environmentally friendly and stuff like that, and 57 watts? A 37-inch LCD TV, 1080p, 57 watts. That can't be right. If it is, that's insane! Here's some numbers to compare it to. The last tube TV I had was a 24-inch Sanyo tube TV, and it sucked 240 watts. The last tube monitor I had was a Samsung 17-inch flat screen that sucked 100 watts. I went from that to an LCD. The LCD monitor I got in 2006 is 30-something watts operational. Now, a 19-inch Samsung monitor, 30-something watts. 37-inch Samsung TV, 50-something watts. Man. Oh. So let me get this straight. This barely 3-year-old TV, assuming that it's making a difference that I have the backlight turned all the way down, is technically a power guzzler compared to what's out there these days, same size, and a lot less expensive. Wow, I feel like a jackass. It's not just TVs either. Look at plug-in Blu-ray drives. Remember how I thought I was also smart because back in the days when sub 100 Blu-ray was hard to find, I built a hack job drive that ran better than the Plextor I had that died after a year? Well, that was before Samsung came out with that $80 plug-in drive that I hooked up after the whole Polaroid Blu-ray thing. So today I went poking around Newegg and I went and checked the numbers to see if this technological advance both made me feel old and made me feel like an ass. Okay, so here's the Samsung drive on Newegg, which still sells for around $80. So that's my price ceiling. So if I was going to build another hack job Blu-ray drive, it has to be less than $80 for it to be worth it. So here's the Light-On drive that I use in the hack job Blu-ray drive, and what the heck happened to the price? 60-something now instead of 50-something. Or maybe I caught it on sale back when I built this drive. That doesn't leave a lot of room dollar-wise for the enclosure in order for this to be worth it. And nope, the cheapest USB enclosure for a 5 1/4 drive I could find on Newegg just costs too much. This would cost more than the Samsung drive, and you'd have to put it together, not to mention, it's a slower drive. This was a quad-speed Blu-ray versus the one in the Samsung drive is 6-speed. So yeah, I think Samsung kicked my ass here. Of course, I'm not surprised. I mean, Samsung does kick ass, but yeah, absolutely royally owned by Samsung, and hack job Blu-ray drives are no longer worth building. This assumes, of course, that the Samsung drive that I have will last as long or longer than the hack job drive, which still remains to be seen, but if the Samsung drive lasts anywhere near as long as the hack job drive, or even longer, it still won't be worth it to build hack job Blu-ray drives anymore because Samsung has just closed that price gap. So yeah, I'm not feeling too good right now, and technology's not making things any better, so I think I better go lie down for a while and knock it off with this video stuff for a bit. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Until next time, this is MultimediaJay signing off. Thanks for stopping by.